Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
That is Grigori from the band Teloch Vovin.
And Grigori, how would you describe the music of Teloch Vovin?
We consider it to be black metal. We got a lot of influences outside of black metal, but it's black metal because of the spiritual content of the band and the practice behind the band.
So I asked this question of all the black metal bands I speak to. What does black metal mean to you? What is the spiritual nature of black metal?
Adversarial. From my point, it's adversarial against the actual process of creation itself and the limits that are put upon us by creation. It's about rebelling against the natural order of things and seeking to return to something that is real and not illusionary in its nature, something that actually exists forever and is eternal.
And as far as the musical components of black metal, do you feel like Teloch Vovin uh, uses techniques like blast beats, tremolo picking, speed, symphonic elements, like those kind of things?
Yeah, but none of those things make you black metal. What makes you black metal is the spiritual practice and belief behind the band. Anybody can use fast riffs, tremolo pick riffs, blast beats, symphonic elements. That does not necessarily make you black metal. There's a lot of bands who play a facsimile of black metal that, even though their music might be good, they're not really black metal. I feel the term has been devalued. It's been used by too many bands that really should not claim its nature.
Before we talk about the history of the band, can you tell me about your relationship with black metal?
Well, it's a music form that I naturally gravitate towards. I've always been attracted to the darker side of life and darker things in life, be it music, literature, movies, life itself, the darker aspects of life itself. Uh, and I just found it by being a practicing occultist, it just came natural to me to mix my music with my spiritual practice. I do believe that music is probably the highest form of magic that man can actually do. I believe it's a very when approached in a certain manner, it can really bring about a lot of changes in your life and inspire other people. And but black metal is also it's a music style I like to listen to. But like I said, I create it because of my spiritual practice in life. I listen to a lot of music outside of black metal, classical music, some electronic music, death metal, doom, thrash, rock and roll, fucking I listen to a lot of music, but black metal is one of those that I choose to create just because it comes natural to me.
So when you say magic, you mean magic with a K, right? Like magic as in terms of esoteric knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, do your occult beliefs belong to a formalized system?
Uh
Like, I don't want to say
yes, but
religion, but like, is there a name for?
yes, there's an actual spiritual practice behind it. I don't claim to be a member of anybody's temple. There's everybody seems to now have created their own temple. It's just a practice that I've been developing from studying. I've been interested in this since I've been 14, 15 years old, you know, and left the library with Aleister Crowley's Magic and Theory and Practice. I actually still have the book today because I never returned it. But and it just brought me it's more than an obsession. It's I don't know where it ends and I begin anymore, nor do I want to.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the origins of Teluk Bovin and what your intentions were when putting this project together?
Well, it's definitely evolved. It started with when I was, and I'm not going to really get too deeply into it, but when I was let go from my one of my original bands, and kind of had the feeling it was coming. I was starting to write more music on my own, uh, and I decided to just take some time to get better at my instrument, and I wanted to I wanted to merge my spiritual practice and my music. The other band was resistant to that, and it had caused a little bit of an issue when we approached recording one of the albums that we did together, and so it kind of led to me. Now I'm on my own, and I was able to start and focus on what I wanted to do. And as I've been doing Teloch Vovin, the spiritual practice behind it is evolved, which has made the band evolve and the concept of the band's evolved. Uh, I do know that there's an aim towards all of this. There's three Teloch Vovin full lengths and a trilogy of albums, and then there's another album from the last Teloch Vovin album is called Lux Ferro, Hymns of Mahapalaya. And after that, the band is going to change its name to Lux Ferro, and we're going to do one album as Lux Ferro that completes the ritual praxis behind the project. So it'll be four albums between two bands and then a couple of different side releases, exploring all the aspects of the ritual work behind Tel Aviv and Lux Ferro. And I'm actually working on a book based upon the theological praxis behind the band.
Do you consider Teloch Vovin to be a band, or is it your project and you have a collective or a pool of musicians that you collaborate with?
I always wanted it to be a band, but where I'm from on Long Island, it's mostly slam death metal and cover bands, and I don't help with writing 16-minute songs and 12-minute songs and sort of like progressive black metal in an area that basically just hates black metal. But so I always wanted it to be a band, but in a way it is because there's members that are like, Mike Lucifer, the producer, engineer, who also plays guitar and keyboards and everything. He's from the band Primeval. He's playing Demolition Hammer. He's joined the band after the recording process of Towards the Inevitable because we just worked so great together. And our drummer had to move back to New Mexico. So it's kind of a studio project. But after the first full length in the trilogy, I'm gonna put together a live lineup and you know probably play some shows. But I've got people that are, like I said, I guess it's a project, but I got people that are really important to that project and add a lot to it. So I don't want, it's definitely not only me. Let's put it this way: my drummer's got a full setup to record, and he's just one of the best drummers that I've ever played with, and yeah, talk to him, and he'd be like, "I never thought I'd be playing in a black metal band because it's not really his style. Of he's more into death metal and stuff, but he just loved the more progressive nature of the band. And even though he's moved to New Mexico, he's got a studio set up over there, so he's going to record his drums and he'll send it over to Mike, and then I'll record my guitars, and we just kind of build everything off of each other. I have the basic ideas for all the music, and then I turn to the other members and say, "Hey, I want a part here," or "What would you think here?" or "Any thoughts with the arrangements?" And but I usually have most of the ideas, laid out as I write the music and the lyrics. But I have, like I said, I have a lot of members, a lot of people that really help. Couldn't get it, couldn't do this without them. So glad to have them and proud to have them as part of it.
You laid out a blueprint for the band going into the third album and then into the project that will come after Teloch Vovin. Uh, how soon after the first album did you have this plan?
Well, it's been developing for a while now. We still haven't put out the first album in the trilogy. Anything that we put out that's got seven or five tracks is actually an EP. All the full lengths will have 11 tracks on it. But the whole concept has been building for years as my spiritual practice has developed. And it's been a good 5 or 6 years now that I've had the actual kind of full concept laid out. but it's a lot of work to get there, you know. And this band works in weird ways. It's like this the second album with the first 10 tracks for the second album were already recorded. You know, we're working on the 11th one. The second album's going to be a double disc. We haven't even recorded the tracks for the first disc yet. We're still working out a couple songs for that, but it's just it's just the way this band works. You know, there's a lot of different ideas. They are all tied into a central concept, so we end up working at different aspects at different times, depending upon what I'm working on or who I'm working with. You know, I got Prof, who is our original drummer. He does all the Psalms of Chaos with me, which is the ritual black ambient side of Teloch Vovin. That's going to be our second album. It's going to all be ritual black ambient tracks. So you know, it depends on who I'm working with at this, you know, at that moment. Me and him are going to start working on the 11th Psalm, which is going to be it's going to take up its own side of it's going to take up one full disc because the 11th Psalm is going to be 44 minutes long. Uh, but like I said, the band just works in strange ways, and then I'll get back together with the other members, and my drummer's going to start probably in July. We're going to start going over our last two tracks that we need for the full length, and hopefully, the winter of this year, he'll start recording the drum tracks. So next year, I can start doing all the other pieces, guitars, bass, and you know, the orchestration and everything else that goes along with it.
I want to talk about the Psalms of Chaos releases just a little bit. As you mentioned, it's more in a dark ambient vein. There's not a lot of guitar until I believe is it the 10th Psalm
The tenth
that you,
psalm.
yeah.
Said yeah, tenth
Um,
psalm.
your intentions, can you tell me a little bit about your intentions for the series?
Yeah, well, that's actually part of the second album. Now, what we wanted to do was embrace both digital forms of music and old school because we both, you know, me and Prof love the old school where tapes and CDs and you know records, and we come from that school. But we also know how a lot of stuff is moving digitally. We also wanted to explore stuff outside of the typical well, the Teloch Vovin is nothing's really typical, but of the more black metal side of things. So we decided to do the Psalms of Chaos as a digital release series, where the first 10 Psalms that will be the first disc on the first album, the first disc of the double disc, which is the second album, and then we're not going to release the 11th Psalm. That's only going to come when you buy the album, but. We actually did a mix. I just finished it up a couple months ago with Mike Lucifer of the first 10 tracks that were released digitally. And there's all the sort of connecting tissue and stuff like that where the first 10 tracks become one. It's almost like listening to a movie. It's really fucking. Mike was able to bring all the little crazy ideas I had and tie them all together. And it's kind of like a nightmare movie vision inside your head when you're listening to it. And but we wanted to release them digitally since it's more of a digital form of music, and then do the metal side of it more old school, sticking to CDs and you know physical releases and stuff like that. But then when we get to the second album, we'll put it all together and put it out as you know. Then everybody gets to see the larger picture. So people who buy the Psalms will get a pre-production version, let's say, of them. And then when you get the album, you hear how they're all tied together, and it really ties them together. It's actually a great piece to meditate to or do ritual work to. I'm really excited to have people hear what that sounds like when we get ready to release the second album.
So if I understand what you're saying, the Psalms were meant to flow into each other like one long piece.
Yes, it actually makes it's almost like a very cinematic when you listen to it, and it's like different scenes in a movie, and it just all flows together. So the first 10 tracks, when the album comes out, the first 10 tracks will be on one disc, and it actually becomes one greater whole. Where I mean, you could still skip through tracks if you want, but they all flow into each other. They all tie into each other. And you know, Teloch Vovin is really larger than the sum of its parts. So you can take a song as just a song, But usually when you listen to a full release, they flow into each other. They paint a bigger picture, as well as giving you just that song or that little smaller idea. They all tie in together to give a larger picture when you listen to the full release.
Did your songwriting process for the songs differ from the way that you write the rest of your music?
Yes, because when it comes to writing the rest of the music, I pretty much sit with a guitar or other instruments, I just open myself up, and it's almost like automatic writing. It just channels through me, and we end up with a Teloch Vovin song. But the Psalms of Chaos, that is music that was done by Prof, our old drummer, who still does a lot of the electronic side of the band with me, even though he's not playing drums in the band anymore. Uh, he will go off and create the psalms, and we talk about ideas, and he'll come back to me with different versions, and I'll be like, hey, I like this part, I don't like that, hey, let's add a beat in here, or this would be better without a beat, like we go back and forth on ideas, but he does the music, and then I'll sit with the track, and I put the theological concept or the ritual aspect or whatever that particular psalm is exploring, and I'll put it over top and figure out how we're gonna lyrically incorporate that, or how we're gonna tie that all in together thematically. But like I said, that's very different because the other side of the band, metal side, I write everything and basically bring the outlines of the songs to the rest of the guys in the band, and they fill in their parts, and we work out ideas together. The Psalms is Prof bringing to me, and then we kind of do the reverse. I go over the ideas and give them some suggestions, or you know, and so it is a very different manner of working. But Prof is very good at that side of things. So I usually just kind of give him a general. Here's the theme of the song, or here's the concept behind what this psalm is going to be, and he'll come back with this nightmarish vision of something, and we just build off of it until we're happy with it. And then it goes over to Mike Lucifer, and we figure out the connecting tissue, and you know how to tie it in so it becomes part of that larger whole that I was talking to you about.
I got you. For the more guitar-based compositions, do you do you write with the aid of a DAW like Pro Tools or some kind of recording software?
I can record. I record into Logic, but the weird thing is, I usually sit down with ideas and I'll play through them, and if I can remember them and I don't record it, like a lot of times I'll get a whole section, like a half of a song, and okay, this is the idea, and then I'll go and record it, and it might take me a couple days of messing with this idea, before I have something to record, but I don't really record just a riff and a riff and a riff and piece things together. It's more of I sit down, I turn myself off, and I open myself up, and I end up, it's very much a stream of consciousness thing where I end up just writing. And if I can pick it back up the next day and remember what I was playing the day before or 2 days earlier, then I know I have something. I mean, I know I've lost some ideas here and there, but oh, this is a cool riff. But yeah, you can have a cool riff or a cool melody or part, and if you can't use it, it's just sitting there. Usually, like I said, when I turn myself off and I stop trying to write a song a certain way, and I just let it flow. Like on this, Towards the Inevitable, there's a song, A Dirge to the Death of Life, Love, and Hope, Part 2. That intro is inspired by Immolation. And I tried for a couple months to write an Immolation style death metal song, and that song doesn't sound anything like fucking Immolation. When the song was done. So it's like once I turned myself off, and it ended up writing itself as a Black Doom song. It's really the only way to put it. It's like an atmospheric Black Doom song with the opening riffs inspired by Immolation. You know,
Yeah,
so I can't force things. I basically have to he said I have to shut myself off. I have to turn myself off and open myself up, and whatever's Teloch Vovin is just has chosen me as his conduit, and I'm just I just pick up the guitar and Like I said, when I have an idea that I can remember and play through and pick up the next day, and it goes over a couple of days, you can keep remembering it. That's how I usually know I have a decent song. I have something in the works, and I also think it's why our songs don't sound. It's like the same band, but there's a lot of dynamics in different styles. Like one song, like a dirge, will be more doomy. Then the Rite of the Harvest is much more, fast black metal with a little bit of heavy metal influence. Then you have a song like Panzerfist where we have a fucking orchestra on it, but it's got death metal in it, and you know, it's got black metal in the second half and a whole lot of atmospheric, you know, dirgy stuff in the middle of the song.
Yeah. Uh, what what stage do the rest of the members hear these compositions? Do you add temp drums? Do you add like vocal phrasings, temp vocals, stuff like that?
Uh, no, it's starting to change now because with the material that was written as we went, I had my drummer here and he lived out on the East Coast. So we're just starting to get things set up where we're going to be working through trading files. And I don't actually have that set up yet. I had a pipe break in my house in December and flooded my studio and everything downstairs. So it's all currently ripped up because the repair work's just getting started next week. But once we get all that done, I'm going to be able to set my studio back up. And, that's when we're going to figure out how. But as of right now, I've just been sending him, like I just finished up a 12-minute acoustic song. And it's supposed to have drums and everything, and I gave him the tempo maps for it. Mike Lucifer figured out all the tempo maps for the different sections, and he's gonna now sit with that and come up with some drum ideas, and he'll send me stuff, and I'll tell him, this is what I'm looking. Nah, I'm not into that idea. Try this. You know, I give him a few guidelines of what I'm looking for in the songs, and so we're just starting to figure out now how we're going to do this, sending files back and forth, how we're going to actually work it out.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm hoping that, when we go to do, because we really have, this album is, the full length is pretty much close to being done. We just have to work on one song, which already has a pre production demo with an old drummer on it. So he's basically just got to learn that, and basically he'll tweak his parts a little bit. He's a little bit more of advanced of a drummer. So he's been taking the songs with the old drummer that we had, and he's been just kind of like amping them up because he's just so fucking good as a drummer. So he's been just kind of taking the songs and, not changing them wholesale, but kind of like adding his own touches to them. So we got one more song to work on. But I'm hoping when we get for the third album that he can fly out here for a week or something like that, and we can actually get behind a kit and in a room together because I prefer that than you know, sitting here hitting keys on a keyboard, programming drum tracks. But
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Towards the Inevitable was released on the 8th of May by your own label, right?
well, it was a licensing deal. We did the digital side of things with an Eastern Temple Productions, and then the physical side and the merch is done by Dust Book Cheyenne Records out of New Mexico. So,
Okay, I see. And are either of those labels or either of those companies owned by members of the band?
well, in Eastern Temple Productions, that's mine. That's basically how where I'm publishing all my material, the different couple different musical projects that I'll be doing in the future. I'm publishing it all through in Eastern Temple Productions. Dust Book Cheyenne Records is just somebody that I know through the scene who is interested in helping out. Like I said, when I had the flood damage at the house, it kind of threw plans into disarray, and I didn't have the money to physically release it at that point due to everything that was going on. And he stepped up and helped me get it out physically, and so that's why he's doing the physical side of things.
So you mentioned that the albums for Teloch Vovin will all have 11 parts. Uh, this has seven tracks on the digital release, but one is a multi-part song. Is this
Yeah.
technically an album?
Actually, no, I consider this. This was supposed as an interesting release because it was originally supposed to be part of a limited split release where each band was going to do a couple songs that were specific for this release and then a couple special versions of other songs that might be on other releases. And each band was going to do is going to be on CD, and each band was going to do 40 minutes. Well, the other bands fell apart. We already had ours done, and we would like because some of these songs are on the full length, and we would just like it's really too good to shelve it, you know. So there's a couple tracks on here that will be in different versions on the full length, and then a couple of songs that are specific just to this release. So, but it wasn't originally intended to be released this way. It was just when the other band fell apart. Like I said, we just sat and listened to it, and it was like, well, it would be a really shame to just, shit can this and not put it out because it's too good.
Right. So, do you consider this an EP?
Yes, this I would consider an EP. Kind of look at it as, even though I'm not really a fan of the band in that era, but if you look at Entombed, where they had the Hollow Man EP before Wolverine Blues, and it's got a bunch of songs that were also on Wolverine Blues. It's kind of, I almost look at it a little bit that way, but it is an EP. It tells its own little, like I said, it's really conceptual in itself, so it kind of tells its own little story. But it was not intended to be released in this manner. But like I said, the other band fell apart, and this is like, I don't want to shelve it. It's really too good. Let's put it out, and it's a limited release. So, but
Right.
yes, I consider this an EP.
Do you want to talk about the concept a little bit? The overarching theme for the album?
Well, it's basically this is little bit of a side release, so it doesn't have into it's not connected to the whole arching concept behind the album. It sort of takes little pictures of it. Uh, and then like Panzer Fist is actually based upon a ritual working I was done on myself around the period that I was writing this material. And I used the song as an outward expression of what I was, working on myself with. Uh, and it was also seeking to evoke a more warlike nature within man. So man would, go to war with themselves. And I think that's has worked pretty well at this point. But the song Samael was actually the first song I ever wrote about 25 years ago. It was done with a different band, but I changed the lyrics and reworked the song a little bit. And because it was based on that was basically what started my uh, mixing of my music and the spiritual practice. But when I was probably about 25 years old and I just turned 50. So I wanted to revisit that song, and it's basically just sort of like a branch on on the tree that is Teloch Vovin this release. So it's a little bit of, like I said, it's a little bit outside of the realm of the overall working behind the band, which it's very hard to explain to somebody the overall arching work, but it's got to do with my family bloodline, and it's got to do with basically sparks trapped within creation. And you'd have to have a little bit of an understanding of Lorianic Kabbalah for me to really get the depth in explaining it. And he said that's why I'm writing a book with it because it's really too hard to give a full concept other than to say it's got to do with my family bloodline and untying that from creation itself.
So, we were speaking about the latest release. You mentioned the song Samael. Uh, I'm curious on Samael and some of the songs from your previous split. There seems to be uh, influence of music uh, from Eastern Europe or Greece or some other non-Western musical tradition. It seems to use non-Western scales and tempos. Do you have a background in playing music that's from a different culture?
No, it just I've loved classical music since I've been like 10 years old. I got Morbid Angel's Altars of Madness, and my mother got one of the first CD players, and she got Korean doctor she worked for told her to get Mozart's 40th Symphony, and I was just blown away. Still am till to this day. It's probably the greatest piece of music ever written. And like I said, when it comes to writing music, I just kind of sort of open myself up, and I don't really. I've learned a few scales, but I don't really write that way so much for writing songs. That more comes into use like if I'm writing a part over top of something. But the more Middle Eastern and different Eastern scales, that it's just what comes through me naturally.
Okay.
I write more. I write a lot more with kind of like looking at the band as an orchestra, and not like that's why I think Panzerfist came out a little bit different than some of the bands that use the orchestra, uh, where they tend to all the movement of the song is done in the by the orchestra, whereas a song like Panzerfist, uh, it was the riffs were kind of based on almost like classical music in my head that that ended up becoming guitar riffs, melodies, and stuff like that.
Can you tell me where and how you recorded the album? Were all the parts recorded remotely?
Well, our drummer did all of his drums and then sent them over to Mike Lucifer. I went up to his studio and recorded all my guitar parts with him. Our our bass player recorded his parts and sent them up to him. We recorded them remotely. We then went up and did vocals. The two vocalists and me and the bass player who were doing backing vocals on this. We all went up and we did like basically like half a day and then half a day. So it's basically like one day we did all the vocals basically in like an afternoon, night, and then the next morning. And and then we just added parts like the orchestration came later, stuff like that. But we didn't really, we weren't in a room together recording it as much as we'd like to be. That's just not, it's not really feasible or possible, especially now with our drummer being all the way across the country. So.
In addition to your usual collaborators, you had a few extra uh, guest appearances. Can you tell me who contributed to this album?
Well, yeah, we have Sebastian, the guitar player from Necrophobic. I just he's one of my favorite lead guitar players in terms of black metal. He writes very memorable solos, and we had talked a few times on social media. And I just, I asked him, I said, would you be interested in playing a song on it? And he said, well, let me check the song out. If I like it, we'll go from there. And he liked the song, so he wrote a crazy solo for me, and it's really a very memorable solo. And then he actually since we were filming a video for it, he recorded himself playing the solo for the video. And then we have my friend Avi Levi, he does all the Hebrew recitation for the band. So he's a good friend of mine, and he's always been on all the releases, doing all the different recitations of the parts. And then we had a friend of ours, Ben Carras, who's plays violin, cello, viola, all that. He recorded all the orchestra parts. It is the actual equivalent of a 16-piece orchestra, but it's just he played all the parts himself, and he just me and my friend Stephen Morris worked on the orchestration together. But the song was actually Panzerfest. It was actually done kind of odd in the fact that I had the third and fourth sections finished, and we had them all arranged with drums and vocals. And we kind of had the first part of the song, but the second part of the song took a lot of work with working out the different rhythms and the patterns and how we were layering everything there. So I actually was listening to the demo of the third and fourth sections, and I shared it with my friend Stephen Morris, who's a classically trained composer. and also a very well trained occultist. And he's actually said to me the same thing. He was like, I could hear an orchestra with this. I was like, I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't really have an idea of how to go about accomplishing it. And he was like, "Well, I hope I hope you work on it. Let's work on it together." And it was funny because he actually played the demo in the background, and I sang him some ideas over the phone. And as soon as I sang him some ideas, he's like, "I know exactly what you're looking for." And I gave him some notes where I wanted the orchestra to drop out, or get more, more aggressive or something like that. And he came back to me with the orchestration written out and all done in MIDI. Then we brought Ben Carras in, and he looked at the score, and he made, like, he came to us and said, "Hey, you got the G sharp here. It would be sound much better if we did it in G minor. It worked better with a metal band." And it's a few small changes like that, and we ended up demoing the orchestration for it. And in that point, we finished the second part of the song, and we're able to put the whole song together. And then it just sounded really weird to have the orchestra come out of nowhere in the third section and just take off for the rest of the song. It just didn't, something didn't work with just having no orchestra and then orchestra all over the place. So we actually started, me and Ben started talking about what we could do to, to work in the orchestra at the beginning of the song. And we didn't want to put too much orchestration in the beginning of the song. I didn't want a ton of it. I didn't want it to take over the beginning of the song. The beginning of the song's got more of a death metal feel to it. So we just, but what he calls padding, we just doubled up some of the guitar lines in parts for the first section. And then Ben actually came to me and he says, "I have an idea. I'd like to record and send to you. See what you think." And I had given him a little bit of notes for that section of kind of how I wanted the orchestration to fit with the rest of the band and the lead guitar that was going on there from Kaz, our second guitar player, uh, who plays in a great band called Winslord. Anybody who likes South American black metal should check out the band Winslord. He's their main guy, and he's a great friend of mine. So he's been helping out with Teloch Vovin since the beginning. Uh, but I sent to Ben some ideas of what I wanted in that section, and he just come back with this orchestration that I was blown away with. I was like, "That's like perfect," and so the song just, you know one idea built off the next one, and we ended up with a 16-minute song with a 16-piece orchestra. You know, that's Teloch Vovin for you.
You discussed your working relationship with Mike Yusufer. How would you describe Mike as an engineer? What would you say his approach is?
Mike is great because I have a lot of the ideas. I know kind of what I'm looking for in a lot of places, but I don't know how to get it necessarily. So I can go to Mike, and he just seems to understand that. That's why I ended up asking him to join the band, and he ended up joining the band because we just clicked with working together. I mean, it was like effortless. Then he's able to, like I said, I can go to him with my ideas. Hey, I want to like connect this with these sounds, and I want to put war sounds here. I can give him all these crazy ideas, and I write him notes, and he'll just come back, and he can fill in all. He seems to understand what I'm looking to do, and it's almost effortless to work with him, which is great. I mean, I trust him. So when he tells me that take's good enough, or no, do that take again. You know, we had such an easy time recording the guitars. I like to be ready for my parts when when I go into the studio. But we went in there and we did all my guitars in like an afternoon and in the morning of the next day. And it was just effortless to work with him. So like I said, I go take him all my crazy ideas, and somehow he stitches it all together, helps me stitch it all together. And now he's going to be composing with the band, which is good. He'll give us, not just guitar, but he can do, keyboards and bass and orchestration, and you know. So we've got a lot of different ideas of how we're going to expand the sound of Teloch for the first album.
Does Mike have his own studio?
Mike does have a recording set up. So I know recently he's moved his studio setup, so I don't exactly know where he's working out of as of yet, but he does a lot of production work for bands. He's and he's got his own band called Summon the Demons that he's working on right now. That's like really cool, like black thrash sort of band, death thrash. It's pretty cool.
Did Mike handle the production all the way to the master?
Yes, he did everything. He did everything from we sent him all the tracks, and he mixed everything and mastered everything. The only thing that I did was if you listen to this album with headphones, I sat and had like about 50 hours time working on panning all the vocals, so all the different vocal tracks pan. It's a very headphone album where if you listen to it with headphones on, you'll hear the vocals are going back, left to right and starting on one side and ending on the other, and you know. But Mike did everything. He's put all the layers together and mastered it, and he's the reason it sounds as good as it does.
Are the vocals layered? Are they multi-tracked? Like, are there two vocals
Yeah,
talking at the same
there's
time? Yeah.
well, there's two main vocals, and the two main vocalists, and then the vocalist did backing vocals, and me and the bass player also did vocals. So there's a lot of layers of vocals on Teloch Vovin. I mean, one track that we did our prior release had 48 tracks of vocals alone on just you know, and it's just there's a lot of vocal layers. That was always the goal. It was always the plan when I started Teloch Vovin was to have two vocals uh because I wanted to capture that like mix between like Funeral Mist and like the early Deicide with the
Man,
double
yeah.
track vocals, like that white-eyed insanity in the vocals. I wanted to capture that within the vocals and be able to do it live. So, and that just leads to, like I said, I'm insane as it is anyway. When I start working on a song, like with all these different layers, and there'll be three or four or five guitar tracks, and 20 some layers of vocals, and
Yeah. In his role as the mixing and mastering engineer, what did you want Mike to bring to the final mix, the final production? What did you want the overall sound to be?
I wanted to be able to capture the raw aggression of Teloch Vovin, but also to be able to capture the dynamics of the band. Because, like I said, we'll write. It'll be a fast black metal, then there'll be a doom section. It's like there's a lot of different layers, and I wanted it to be I want a clear mix. That was the one thing. So I don't want a clean sound. I want a raw, vicious, violent sound and atmosphere, but I want a very solid, clear, clean mix where you can hear all the instruments, you can hear all the parts, where they're not stepping all over each other. But I wanted it to sound like a band, and I didn't want it to sound. I can't stand the overproduced. There's no uh, it's not quantized. We didn't do a lot of moving shit around and fixing shit. That was, wanting to keep that, more that old school, just almost like it's going to come off the fucking rails, but it just doesn't. I wanted to capture that, pushing at the bounds, but it's still just the train does not come off the track. And a lot of the bands I listen to now, it's so overproduced, and it's like all the rough edges have been sanded off, and it's like you don't have to worry about cutting yourself on it anymore. That's not where I want Teloch Vovin to be at all. I just wanted to capture that raw, violent, vicious side. Also, the hypnotic, very ritualistic, meditative side, but I didn't want to suck the life out of it. I didn't want it to become quantized. And, we played the tempo maps, but we want like, we didn't sit there and then analyze. Okay, that's a little off the beat. Let's move it on. It's a little before the beat. Let's, correct it. We didn't do any of that. We actually Actually, funny story is Mike ended up calling me and he was like, this was before he was in the band. And he's like, dude, I'm not even going to charge you for the drums. He goes, I'm going to put the money you sent me for the drums. We'll put it towards your guitar tracks. He goes, I don't have to do anything for the drums. I don't have to do a simple edit, anything, nothing. The drums are perfect just the way they are. And all he did was when we got into the mix, like he might have to raise the snare or the kick drum or, a mixing level, but he didn't do any editing to the drums for the album at all. So what you hear is our drummer playing those songs. And then I just went in and recorded my guitars, and everybody recorded over top of his drum tracks.
That's awesome.
So I mean, Mike is the one that he's able to you know he's able to put it all together, and like I said, he's really good because I can go to him. He seems to understand what I'm trying to do with Teloch Vovin, and a lot of times I don't even have to talk to him too much about it. It's just
Yeah. The album came out about a month ago. Were you able to play any release shows or support the album live?
No, we did listening parties, but without having a drummer, we really have. We're not playing shows right now. I am playing in a couple other bands. I'm actually playing in old school death metal band called Cerebral Hemorrhage, which I recently joined, and we just played Maryland Death Fest a couple of weeks ago, which was really really cool. But I'll worry about doing Teloch Vovin live shows when I get the full length album out. But until then, like I said, it's hard. I don't have a drummer around here, and nobody's really interested in playing this style around here.
Okay. Uh, the drummer situation aside, is touring or playing festivals something that you're interested in once the full length is out?
When the full length is out, I'd like to do a run of shows, and do a bunch of shows to promote it. But it's also Telephone has a kind of a huge setup when we play shows, so it's kind of trying get a full lineup. A full lineup would be three guitar players and a keyboard player and an effects player, and it's like we almost don't fit on the fucking stages when we when we had the full band. I mean, we have a whole altar setup that goes on stage. It's quite a theatrical show when we can do it. So I'll probably end up doing some shows where you can do the full ritual show, and then other more stripped down ones where it's just less of a stage show. And but I don't know so much about touring. Is more of like I'd like to do a run of shows and then run of shows a couple months later. But I'd love to get this over to Europe because it'd definitely be probably more people interested in the band in Europe than slam death metal capital of the world, Long Island, New York. So
Right. Yeah.
you know, but live is yes, I enjoy playing live, but it does not really affect Telefovin in terms of I'm still doing Telefovin regardless, and there's a concept behind it and a manner, something that I'm seeking to achieve. That's more important than you know
Yeah.
being signed to a bigger label or something. Even if I have to put it all out by myself, regardless, it's still getting done.
So when you played MDF, what was the live lineup? Three guitarists, bassist, drummer, keyboardist, two vocalists?
Well, no, that was for the other band that I'm playing in Cerebral
Oh, I
Hemorrhage.
see. Okay, okay.
I couldn't see Maryland Death Fest booking Telefoven,
Okay.
but would be interesting maybe sometime in the future. But no, that was with the other band that I play in Cerebral Hemorrhage. Which was really that was an amazing show. It was what a way to start off. That was my first show with the band, and we only had like 5 or 6 rehearsals, and over 1,000 people turned up. So it was pretty wild.
But for the live, if Teloch Vovin does play live, would you want that setup? Three guitarists, two vocalists, bassist, drummer?
Yeah, I mean, but basically, I'd like to have. I would not mind having 3 guitar players, but it would basically. It's also depending upon what songs we play. we actually have I don't know what you're if you're familiar with too much of our back catalog, but we have a song called Treatise on the Left Emanation. It's on a 12-inch. The final version of that song, full version, is going to be on the full length. But that song has a whole bell part that's played on these long tubular bells. And we actually have a setup for that where when we were playing that song live, we had a person like who basically was doing effects, triggering the samples between songs, could do keyboard parts, but they were actually playing that bell part live, and we had a whole stand with all the bells on it, and it was all bones hanging from the bell stand. It was really I'd like to get the full show when we can because that's the experience. But at the same time, we're it's a smaller band, so it's kind of like a friend of mine was saying to me. I was talking to him recently. He's like, we should also strip things down because to build more opportunities for us to play live. But I don't know. I'm kind of stubborn. We'll see what comes of it. But yeah, I would like to be able to do the full show. Uh, with the strobe lights and the smoke machines, and if anybody checks out the live streams that we did two live streams during the pandemic, and you kind of get a little bit of a feel of what Teloch Vovin does live.
Cool. So, Towards the Inevitable is out now through an
Yes,
Eastern Temple Productions and thus make high-end records.
yes,
Greg,
they're doing the physical, and AOT Productions has the digital.
Greg, can you tell everyone listening to this or watching it on YouTube how they can order the new album? What's the best way to get it?
Well, the best way, if you want the digital version, you can go to Teloch Vovin's Bandcamp page. You can get it right through there. And if you want physical version or any merch, you can go to the Buck High End Records, and they have all the links on their social media pages to take you to all the Teloch Vovin. You can get the CD through them, or you can get there's a bunch of different merch designs, hoodies and shirts and stuff like that. They did a really good job setting us up with some of the merch designs. So came out really cool. If anybody's interested, you can check it out through their website.
And if people want to get updates on the band or maybe even potential live dates, what's the best way to follow you?
Well, we're on Instagram and we're also on Facebook, and you can Bandcamp. You can check our Bandcamp page for any music. So that's the best place. We're also you can find some of our videos and stuff like that on YouTube. We did a couple videos for this album, so they're all up on YouTube. And yeah, we're basically on the social media. I'm not the biggest fan of the social media, but I don't know. Not I don't know. Leaves a lot to be desired, to be honest with you. But yeah, you can find us on social media.
Greg, it was really nice talking to you, and I really appreciate your time and your patience with some of the technical difficulties that we had. Is
It's all good, man. That's technology for you.
is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want the listeners to know about the band or the album or anything else?
Just check out the album if you like expressive black metal. It's violent and it's real, and uh, that's basically it. Hopefully people give it a chance, and be interested to see what people think of it. Thank you for your support and your time. It's a
Thanks,
cool
Greg.
interview. You're welcome, man. Thank you.